This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Hello from the Other Side, where we speak to the opposition. Tonight I'm joined by fellow podcaster Nathaniel who represents Hull City. How are you doing, Nathaniel?
I'm doing very well. It's always a pleasure to come on one of these other shows. I love doing these, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. We enjoy doing them too. It's always great to get opinions and views from opposition supporters and fellow podcasters. We've got a game coming up on Saturday against Hull City is it still called the KCOM Stadium, Nathanial? Or is
it's
it
the MKM Stadium, but it's the same with Newcastle Stadium. We always call it, the KC. That's what we prefer to call it, I think.
KC, yeah. Yeah, it's just essentially a sponsorship thing, isn't it? You always know it as your home, and you always know it as the name that you give it and the supporters use. Yeah, so we've got a game coming up against Hull on Saturday. Then both teams have played one league fixture and one League Cup game. We not set the world on fire on either fixture really. Wednesday got a narrow loss to Southampton to open the EFL campaign on Friday night on Sky. Followed up by a narrow penalty shootout win over Stockport County. And Hull, you guys had a disappointing late goal at Norwich to deny you a point, and then followed up just recently with a loss in the League Cup to Doncaster. Tell us about the Norwich game then, Nathaniel. Looking online, reading between lines, it seems that Liam Rossini, manager, wasn't really too happy about the goal. There's a bit of controversy there. Is that fair, or do you think on reflection it was a valid goal, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the goal. There's calls every time something like this happens that we should bring in VAR, but the goal would still have been allowed with VAR. It was the ball went out before, and it should have been a goal kick, and then I think they kept it in, and then it was a corner because I think one of our defenders would have cleared it. So rubbish defending from the corner that came after, but really, even though it shouldn't have been a corner, the ball was out. We didn't really deserve anything from that game, and Norwich, only drawing, that would have been very unfair on them. Very disappointing though to concede late, because even if we haven't played well, you feel like, especially on the first game of the season, maybe some of our poor play can be excused, and you would have really liked a point to build on and remain unbeaten for at least one game into the season. And 96th minute, it's the second time we've conceded a 96th minute goal against Norwich recently, so very disappointing. But there was controversy over the goal, but we didn't deserve anything from the game. So personally, I think that would just have, we didn't deserve it. So, and of course, very annoying that Rossini has to serve a touchline ban, but that was just for the League Cup game. So hopefully when we do play on Saturday, he will be on the touchline and hopefully improve, because the two performances, as you've mentioned so far, have been disappointing. I won't say anything worse than that. It is just 2 games. We can improve, but very disappointing start to the season.
Yeah, it's and I don't know if it was the same for your game, Nathaniel, or the first 2 games that you've played this season. Have you noticed the change in the allotted time that the officials are now doing? So we're getting like injury time, like 9 minutes, 12 minutes. I've seen in some games. Did you get any of that in the couple of games you've played so far?
Yeah, well, I think it was 5 minutes for the Norwich game, and then 10 minutes for the Doncaster League Cup game. That was because there was an injury. But, we have conceded 96-minute goals at Norwich before, a few years ago, so I guess it wasn't anything extra. I think they added an extra minute on because they thought our keeper was time-wasting. Liam Rossini was trying to say that they were just trying to move it for the goal kick. I mean, I think if you are moving the ball on a goal kick in the 95th minute, even if you mean to pass it short the other side, I think it's always going to be, seen as time wasting. Really, just boot it. If he booted it and saved that 15 seconds, we'd be talking about an undeserved but a solid draw. And then 10 minutes against Doncaster. I think didn't they play some of the League Cup games at 7:30? So maybe if it's a longer journey home for some people. So I imagine there's going to be a whole lot more, like 100th minute goals as well, triple digits sort of matches this season.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, it's going to take a little bit of getting used to, because we conceded against Southampton around the 80, 81, 82 minutes or something like that. And then people thinking we've lost to a late winner, but we actually got like 9 minutes injury time against Southampton.
20 minutes more, yeah.
Yeah. So by that time, we'd got plenty of time to get back in it. It wasn't, you can't turn around and say it was like, we lost the game at the death or anything like that. When the problem was that we couldn't get anywhere near Southampton for those 9 minutes, whether it was player fatigue or what. But it will be interesting to see, because it kind of puts a different slant on late goals now, doesn't it? If you're going to get that kind of injury time. It's not necessarily fans going to be down in the dumps thinking, oh, we've just conceded in the 89th minute. If the officials are going to give us 6, 7, 8 minutes injury time, it's going to change everybody's mindset, isn't it? Players and fans, really. So So obviously we both had mixed results and not set the world on fire. But prior to kick-off, what sort of transfer business have you done then? I noticed that I think Liam Rosenior was using his Brighton connections. You look like you brought Connolly in as a striker on a one-year deal amongst I think Delap from Man City is quite an exciting loan signing. Is it a loan signing, that one, Nathaniel?
Delap's on loan, and immediately it looks like his loan here is going to be better than both Preston and Stoke last year. He was the only good player against Norwich. Scored 1 goal from good pressing, and then a great Angus gun save denied him a second. And that would have been 2 goals. That would have been half the amount he got last year in just the 1 match. So it looks like he will be a very good signing. And then Connolly, as you said, Rosenior's, we've bidded for the Derby midfielder Max Bird. So Rosenior definitely using his Brighton links from when he was, I think, an under-20 coach or something, and then was the interim manager at Derby at the start of last year. So we're using those links, and we're still using some players, or perhaps going to sign some players from the Turkish league. We got Jason Lakilo, who was playing against his former team in Doncaster last night, but we got him from, it's very confusing. I think we got him from a team in the Dutch league, but he was on loan in Turkey last year, and now he's playing for us. So a bit confusing where he actually came from, but we're using those Turkish Super League sort of, we obviously scouted him whilst he was there. And then the last signing we've made is Ruben Vinagre, who's won the league before in the Championship with Wolves, Portuguese left back. So those 4 signings, compared to the about 18 we made last summer, we are just adding, we're just sort of adding the extra little bits on top of a squad that we did most of the work with last year. Apparently we were going to sign 6 players. Now that might go up to 9 that they want. Adding on to the, I think we might be getting another 5 potentially. So that would then again be quite a lot of signings, and perhaps because of the poor performances, an extra 5 is needed, because we've really not been very good. But those 4 are very solid. Connolly and Vinagre aren't really fit enough to know, but Lakila looked very good in the League Cup, and Delap has already scored. So I guess 2 of the 4 already look like they could be decent signings. So I guess Delap and Lakilo's performances have been the sort of standout positives in the 2 games so far. Yeah. So you seem like very similar to ourselves, Nathaniel, a team that's still in transition. You're still making signings. You've still got a focus on adding to the team. As whether we agree with it or not, the transfer window does run till the end of August. Some argue that they'd like it shut before the season starts, because you could be playing against one player, like
for instance, we've just played against James Ward-Prowse, and now he's moved, looks like he's moving on to West Ham. So if we drew them in the League Cup or something, we could be playing against him again. But yeah, so you seem a very similar side to ourselves in the fact that you are going to be focusing on your work in progress. You've got more players to come in. We've gone down a similar route to yourselves with players from abroad. So we've gone for a lad from Monaco's come in. So I've got a lad from the French league. And one or two others. One player I did want to ask, obviously, with the connection between the two sides, is Deshaun Bernard, or Big Dish, as he likes to nickname himself. So he's recently joined us, but he has played for Hull as well. I just wondered what your thoughts are on Deshaun and what sort of player we're getting there.
Yeah, well, he was with us 2 years ago, so he was one of the signings we made when we were under transfer embargo. He'd had a very good year with Salford in League Two. Very quick. That gets him out of a lot of tight situations. You'd expect that from a young centre-back, whereas maybe later on it's just about the positional awareness. And he was thriving in a back three because we had Greaves, who's good on the ball. He was playing at left-back last year. Of course, in the sort of Maguire mould, who's also going to West Ham. Deshaun Bernard on the right-hand side of that back three was coming out with the ball a lot. So, yeah, very quick. I think quite good on the ball, perhaps. He's quite young, and I'm surprised he didn't get another championship move last year. So, he'll certainly, I think by this point, after having a few loans, 2 years after he was with us, I think that's a very solid signing for, most championship sides, especially a newly promoted one. So I think Bernard, I think that's probably quite good.
That's great. Yeah, good to hear that. Obviously, we one of the things we want to do as a fan base for our club is to sign younger players with resale value, because typically some of our troubles have come from signing players who are looking for one last payday, or they're the wrong side of 30, and you've just got one more season out of them, and then they've got no resale value. Jordan Rhodes, many argue we're in a position that we are because we obviously chased what we thought was Jordan Rhodes Blackburn, but we didn't get Jordan Rhodes Blackburn. We got Jordan Rhodes from probably past his best and on big wages and a lot of money. But obviously we are looking to change direction a little bit and sign some younger players with resale value. So it's good to hear some positive vibes on Deshaun. So that's good to hear. So generally speaking, then difficult. I appreciate it's difficult because we've two sides that are still, like I say, adding to the squads. But what was the sort of fans' expectations and Hull's fans' expectations for this season?
Well, they're very mixed. I think perhaps the most optimistic sort of opinions were perhaps less optimistic than last year, because we were in the bottom three at some points in around October, December time when Rossini came in and he fixed it. So we were around 12th or 10th since he came in halfway through the season with Senior. So I guess hopefully if we can improve on that, I think we were around 12th in the form table. I've predicted 10th, but I saw that some analytical supercomputer said we'd get relegated, and after the two performances, if we continue like that, which I don't think we will, we certainly would be going down. And then Gabe Sutton he's all over Twitter and he's the sort of English Football League expert, said we'd finish 6th. So anywhere between relegated and having a chance at getting promoted, really. I said 10th, which was a bit higher than 13th I predicted. Probably, even though it is only one league game, I probably have it just a few positions lower. But if we are going to bring in those 5 signings, as you said, when the transfer window is done and you've had some games to see where you are, it's easier to predict. But yeah, improvement on last year would be good. I think it's a long sort of term process. We are still transitioning from the Alam, ownership to the Adjan Ilagella ownership, which has, been quite positive so far. We've got a good, bright, young coach, so hopefully we can grow. But I think most people have said top half or top 10 would be pretty good.
Yeah, so improvement year on year is what you're looking for,
Yeah.
isn't it? And then obviously making a push for the playoffs. Typically, and when you get a change of ownership or a change of manager, you get all these different mindsets and ethos on how you want to play, and the direction of the club can alter somewhat. And usually in sports, when something like a new owner or gets hold of a new team or a new manager, they have like a 3-year plan. So year one is like stay where you are, and year two push on a little bit more, and then obviously year three is the one where you're hoping you can crack the playoffs, because once you get in the playoffs, it's not a lottery, but at any team, it's not knockout football, and the mentality is completely different, isn't it? So you mentioned there, because I didn't realise that you changed actually change owners as well, which I think obviously from an outsider, I know that I'd heard about your old owner. He was a bit outspoken at times, said some really crazy things. We know from our own owner who's obviously quite controversial as well. So is there fresh optimism with the new owner then? Have they given you like a actual, you mentioned you're doing some signings, but is there a more healthy budget there, or is it still sort of pragmatic and you're going for loans and frees, or what's the general consensus there?
It's more pragmatic this year because, as I said, we signed 22 players in total over the course of last season. So Ajner Lagella, if you don't know who he is, he's basically the Turkish Simon Cowell. He's got his Turkish The Voice talent show. He's got like sort of Survivor, which he does in the Dominican Republic, which is basically I'm a celebrity, but not celebrities, I think. I think there's probably Survivor shows in every country. So he's come in with a bigger budget, and he's really marketed the club much better to Turkey, and we're making a lot of money from sponsors. We've got a few players. We've got Ozan Tufan, who was, he's been capped for Turkey many times. So yeah, the budget's much bigger because under the Alam period, we didn't really spend much money at all. We lost a lot of free players because we didn't want to give them, we lost them for free because we didn't give them new contracts. And the attendances were really down, but attendances are up. The budget's bigger. As I said, less this year because financial fair play means you can't sign as many players as we did last year. But yeah, there's much more positivity around the club. And, with especially a manager who used to play with us and not only used to play for us, but for our best ever team, getting into Europe for 4 games in the playoffs and getting to the FA Cup final with Vicinha. Really, up until the 2 horrid games, if we do win a Yorkshire Derby on Saturday, then I think the positivity will be maybe the highest it's been in many years, really, because there are more hopes this year because we've got Vicinha for a whole year. So yeah, new ownership it seems too good to be true, but so far there's not really been any negatives. So it's really amazing that we finally got an owner and one who's a real football fan. He loves Fenerbahce and he loves City.
Yeah, that can be really key because as we well know, a lot of these football owners aren't particularly football fans. Yeah. We're just play toys to them, aren't they? They're just big. They've got lots of money but no actual football knowledge, and we've suffered that and still continue to suffer that at times under our manager. Our owner, who can make some bizarre decisions, from ticket prices to shirt prices to just general sort of transfer dealings, whether we should be selling players and we don't, or we hold on to them too long and things like that. But it's good to hear that you've got some optimism there from a change of ownership, and it can just give you be a breath of fresh air, can't it? And just give everybody some renewed optimism for the new season. Everyone's quite optimistic at the start of the season anyway, because everyone's got a blank canvas, haven't they? So no one really knows, even though these people and these supercomputers are trying to predict where teams are going to finish. The reality is that you can't know, because you could essentially be a completely different side by the end of August, because teams like Hull and Wednesday are continuing to make signings. So your starting 11 could be vastly different from what it is even on Saturday. So it can be quite, folly, can't it, really, to predict where teams are going to finish. So so moving on to the game on Saturday, then we looking at the head-to-head. I think you beat us the last 3 times we've played, so you must be feeling confident at home against a side that's come up from League One. And what's the general feeling about Saturday's game from supporters, or what you're hearing on the forums, etc.?
Well, really, I think after the Norwich game, because we were seconds away from getting a point, even though the performance wasn't very good. Norwich are a good side. They are still, a parachute payment club, only having this is their second season down. And, away from home on the first game of the season with a big crowd, perhaps that played a part. But then after Doncaster, we did make changes, but they were still, it was still a fairly strong team, I'd say. We played our top goal scorer from last season, Oscar Estepinian, up front. So even though it was a change, he's still a strong player. And the performance was just, we want to play out from the back. That's what Rossini's doing. We're playing out from the back. And sometimes you make mistakes and it leads to a goal, fine. But when the goalkeeper's sort of outside his own penalty area, waiting with the ball for 30 seconds, and there's no movement from the 10 outfield players, clearly something is going wrong there. Because that's happened for 2 games now, it just simply has to change, because if it doesn't change, none of the players who play against Wednesday will play the next game, because Rossini and the assistant who was doing the touchline because of the Rossini ban from the first game, both said that the performance was unacceptable. So perhaps Sheffield Wednesday are playing at a good time because we seem to be tactically inept at the moment, or a bad time because there has to be a reaction. First home game of the season, Yorkshire Derby. So hopefully, there is that reaction from 2 really bad performances. But it could go either way, because Wednesday, I know they lost to Southampton, but newly promoted team, that always has an extra sort of bit of motivation. So I think whatever happens, it'll be tight, because sort of derbies are, and neither team is in full flow yet. Perhaps we'll edge it with that reaction, but honestly, if we don't change it tactically, I'm not very confident that we'll get the win, because it hasn't been ideal, to put it nicely.
Yeah, so you've obviously got a few players who are kind of like playing for the shirt then on Saturday, because it sounds like your managers, they're kind of auditioning for that role now, with him having minds on other players, either in the reserves, or obviously the continuation of players that are going to come into the club that you're still looking to sign. So I think it's probably an obvious question from my point of view, but is your top danger man, do you think, Delap, then in this game? Would he be the one to focus on, you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, he played so well against Norwich, holding the ball up, and it's a bit odd that we've still got our top scorer from last year, Oscar Estepinian. He got 13, was very good, but there were very few games he played last year where he put in a good performance. He might score, but his all-round game wasn't very good, whereas Delap got his goal and can hold the ball up and have a bit of link-up play, which you'd expect, because Man City Academy, he should be good on the ball. So yeah, he should be the danger man. I imagine he'll start. He couldn't save us in the League Cup the other day when he came off the bench, but there's Oscar did score, but he did his usual thing of getting a tap in and then going missing for the other 89 minutes and 59 seconds, really. So yeah, Delap will be the main danger man. Lokilo looked good on his full debut, but again, fitness-wise, I don't know if he's quite there. So Delap's obviously the one to look out for on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think from our point of view, we the new lad who's come in, Anthony Masaba from Monaco's, he's very quick. Likes to run up players. It's early days yet, so he's still finding his feet. We've obviously got a player who you're familiar with his father. So we've got Josh Windass, and you're familiar with Dean, who's presumably a Hull City legend. Josh is now a Sheffield Wednesday legend, as it transpires after the heroics at Wembley. So he's another one of our danger men. So from the wing areas and sort of a free roll with Josh at times. I think they're our main two danger men, and Gregory can have his moments as well, but they're probably our two sort of most danger men from what Hull City would be looking at. So yeah, you think it's going to be a tight affair? Do you think I could push you for a prediction then, Nathaniel? What scoreline?
Well, I suppose with the tradition of Hull City Sheffield Wednesday games in the past, maybe I'd like to say that we could maybe nick a 1-0 in a tight game. I don't know how much quality there's going to be. And I mean, I've seen a lot of people say Sheffield Wednesday will go down. I mean, I have no idea about the Sheffield Wednesday squad, but really, if that is sort of a realistic thing, that you're not going to be really high up the table and a poor start, I doubt there's going to be much quality in the game. So perhaps Delap will do what he did last time, sort of make the most of a mistake, and we'll get a goal. But it's not going to be free-flowing from City. So 1-0, but I'm not very confident.
Yeah, and we've not obviously. I think for us, you couldn't really tell a lot about the side playing Southampton because they've come down from the Premier League. They're still pretty much a Premier League side, aren't they? Really? Okay, they might be just starting to lose some players now, but Ward-Prowse. I think what West Ham will pay for him is what the owner bought us for as an entire club. So you can see the gulf in quality and obviously resources there. So we are still trying to make signings, but I think the prediction is we're going to be sort of a bottom 6 team, but we just want to keep ourselves away from that dreaded dotted line and away from those bottom 3 relegation spots. I think the League Cup game, it wasn't a great performance, but again, it's just kind of getting new players to try and gel together, which is always a problem when you're signing lots of players and new manager, new tactics, new formations, etc. So you're going to take time to bed in. So I think a lot of Wednesday fans would be relatively okay with just getting a draw, just to get off the mark in the league points wise. But I agree with you, Nathaniel. I don't think it's going to be a game littered with quality. I think it'll be more of a physical game at times. I think it'll be first goal. I think will be absolutely key in this one. Whoever gets that, I think, would probably go on to win the game. But I don't see it being a big scoring game as such. So I think I'll plump for a 1-1, and personally speaking, I'd be okay with that this early in the season.
We had a lot of those last year, especially at home. 1-1. The draws were the reason why we didn't get into the playoffs or have a proper push last year. So 1-1 at the MKM or the KC is always a good shout, really, as a prediction.
Yeah, that's the thing with draws, isn't it? It's you're better off splitting them with wins and losses than getting 10 draws, aren't you? 5 of each. You're much better off. Draws will kill you in this league in a 46 game season. You really need to just be a bit more adventurous. And if you win, you win and get the 3. But if you don't, you've still got plenty of games to bounce back from. So yeah, I take what you're saying there. It would be a tight affair. So. What sort of crowd do you think you'll get? Is there still quite a bit of optimism because it's still in the season? You're expecting around 20,000-25,000 maybe, Nathaniel?
Yeah, I mean, I think, with Sheffield Wednesday coming as well, that'll be a full contingent from Yorkshire. So yeah, I imagine pretty much as full as you can get. 24,000, I think. Memberships have been going up because we don't do season tickets, but it's basically the same thing. So yeah. It'll be a big crowd for the first game of the season, absolutely.
Great stuff. Yeah, that's what we want. Nice to have those big crowds, and it shows off that even if the quality is not always great, it shows that the support remains ever amazing for second division football, which you don't get in other leagues around the world.
Isn't it the 7th most attended league in the world, behind kind of Germany and France and the Premier League and all that? So yeah, it's a great division, isn't it? Really, it's great.
It is in many ways. Obviously not quality wise, but it's much more an entertaining league than the Premier League, because you're just going to get your top 4 that are just going to be way above everybody else in the Premier League. But we know the Championship, anyone can beat anyone, and frequently do every week. So it is a very entertaining league. You can be down and out by Christmas, a couple of signings in the January window, and can still make a push for the playoffs, which is the beauty of the league, really, isn't it? I mean, I think Roy Keane was the example used when he was at Sunderland, and they were miles off the pace, and then they went on this unbelievable run and managed to get themselves promoted. So, and I think that's what keeps the division alive, is the fact that people know you're just a few good results away from being on the outskirts of the playoffs, and it just, you know, whether you like them or not. I mean, we finished third last season on 96 points, and it's pretty much unheard of for a team not to make the top two on 96.
Well, we won the league with 89.
89, yeah, there you go, yeah. And so, you know, people start questioning about whether the playoffs are fair when you see something like that happen. But, you know, even if we'd not gone up, I would still say that the playoffs are fair, because it keeps the division alive. And without that, a lot of teams would just get cut adrift, and the quality wouldn't be there, the attendances wouldn't be there.
24 in the division rather than like 20. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, so that's what's good for teams like ourselves as well, because although we both think we're going to be in the lower end of the table, if you never know, if you go on these good runs and the chemistry is there and the confidence is there, would expect Luton to have gone up. You know, nobody would have expected that, but they've been building steadily. But even so, you wouldn't still expect that Luton would have done what they did. So they're example stories for everybody there, aren't they? And every fan of every club in the league, barring one or two, has got that vision that you're just a few results away from knocking on the door there. So so we'll see what happens. But I think that probably just about wraps it up. I want to thank you for your time, Nathaniel, and wish Hull City all the best for the coming season. And I think we're all looking forward to a great game on Saturday. A great occasion, even if it's not a great game. So there's hope the sun is shining. We need a bit of sunshine. We've not had a lot lately. I don't know if it's been the same in Hull, but yeah. So we're looking forward to that. So if any Hull City fans have come and stumbled across this on YouTube later, where can they find you, Nathaniel, so they can follow your content and follow your podcasts?
Well, it's on the screen, but we're the To Hull and Back podcast. You probably have to put podcast in if you are going to search it. Otherwise, just get the old Only Fools and Horses episode, unfortunately.
Right.
But we've got a website. We'll have a newsletter soon. We're everywhere. I'm sure you've got your links at the bottom there. Basically any website, To Hull and Back podcast, award-winning, and you'll find us. So thanks for the shout out.
Excellent, no problem at all. Well, that concludes this episode of Hello from the Other Side. Thank you very much for listening and watching wherever you are.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport, powered by fans.